والاستفادة والحث على التمسك بكتاب الله وسنة رسوله صلى الله عليه وآله وصحبه وسلم ودعاء إلى الهدى ودلالة على الخير ابتغاء وجه الله ومرضاته وقربه وثوابه سبحانه وتعالى مع لطف وعافية برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. اللهم إنا نسألك علم لدني ومشرب صافي الهاني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك علم لدني ومشرب صافي الهاني يا وهاب يا غني. اللهم إنا نسألك علم لدني ومشرب صافي الهاني يا وهاب يا غني. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين. Alhamdulillah. Bismillah, Bismillah. We're going to start our class now, inshallah. Barakallahu fikum. Jazakumullah khair for those who help recite different parts of the Maulid. Inshallah, we'll be doing this for the entire month. So there's a lot of there is plenty of opportunity if you want to take part or you want to recite part of the Maulid. Otherwise, listening to it and having it, doing it in the parts of your house. There's barakah in there. There's nur in there. And inshallah, and one of the intentions I mentioned earlier on the first day of Rabiul Awal, I mentioned of our intention is to get people to be familiarized, right, with different types of maulids. There are mawalid, right? There are many different maulids out there, written by our awliya, and inshallah, with our intention that in reciting the different maulids, that are available, in this ummah, whether they are popular or not popular, right? That we get in an iqtibas in there, that we get an amount, from the anwar, right, from the lights of this, on the asrar, the secrets of this wali, right, of the awliya who wrote the maulids, especially from the love for the, especially to get from the love of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Like we want to get a nasib, yani a portion, of that, from the people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are they are the best and the highest, and the strongest in their love for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so you want to follow them, in this ummah, you want to follow these people, like in their love for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And mashallah, right, to be able to write a maulid in and of itself is proof, of a person's very deep love for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I think about it, it's not something that, as I mentioned, not something that just anyone does, right? But it is something that it actually comes from, as far as I know, it comes from permission from the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam to that wali, right? To that wali, to do this. Right? And then that for a maulid to be accepted, right, by people, and be read, worldwide, it is qabul from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah accepted the Mawlid that was written by this wali. Right. So and you can see the ulama today we recited the ulama really, like literally 10 years ago, when I first came back to Singapore, or even from before that, that it was something that was so rarely, read, right, in Singapore. People didn't know the ulama, like which is the Mawlid that is written by Habib Umar bin Hafiz, a wali in our zaman. Right, but so subhanallah, just 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was almost unheard of, right? This maulid, people were not, familiarized with this maulid. But now, subhanallah, right, it has like literally it boomed, it's subhanallah, and like so many, places in our country, in Singapore and other countries around the world, like suddenly, subhanallah, you see it's qabul, acceptance, of the maulid. And of course, we have longer standing maulids, or that have stood the test of time, right? Like Maulid Dibai, right? It's widespread in our societies. Maulid Shariful Anam, which is so beautiful in and of itself, right? And you have other maulids, that are also widespread. And this time around, also I wanted to do the Maulid by Habib al Adani, Maulid Hadiqa Nadira, right? So there are the different maulids, inshallah, with the intention to get people to be familiarized with these words, and inshallah to translate them as well. Right, try and get them translated, so that people can enjoy, right, the meanings, right, in this maulids, and also of course in the intention that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opens up for all of you the doors of Arabic, right, to really understand it in its language in itself, and it's really, especially poetry, it's like you kind of break it when you take it away from the Arabic language. So that now we're doing Qasida Muhammadiyah, and the Qasida in Arabic, mashallah tabarakallah, Like in English, any it still has its beauty, any, but it's not. It doesn't capture what Arabic has. You can't. Arabic is a language that is not like any other language. Necessarily so because it carries the Quran. Like, so here Imam Siri he says Muhammadun sharraf al-bari maratibahu Muhammadun khassahu rahmanu bin ni'ami. So yesterday we took the first line. Muhammad, the creator, ennobled his stations and standings. Muhammad, the most merciful, gave him exclusive blessings. I tried my best to translate the English in a way that it rhymes. I hope it rhymes. This is why you might find that the English translation is not word for word, right? But I kind of like rearrange sentences to try and make it rhyme, so that you can at least we preserve some level of poetry in these verses. Right. So yesterday we mentioned about the ennoblement of the station of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When the name of Rasulullah is mentioned, right? Allah's name, it is mentioned next to Allah's name in the Shahada, in the Azan, in the on the Arsh, right? All over the world, the name of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is exalted. So subhanallah, no matter what they try to do in every zaman, they will try to run down the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They will never do so. Right? They will never succeed in running down the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They will write books, right? They will write books and they will stand there and they will write all kinds of lies and they will put up posts and they will put up videos and they will put up all kinds of filthy lies against our beloved sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It will not stand. It will not stand the test of time. It will not stand even for very long. And if Allah doesn't have mercy on them, then they will be destroyed and be punished in this dunya before the hereafter. But if Allah has mercy on them, some of them Allah has mercy on them, that they actually find out the truth and they become a Muslim. Subhanallah. And there are those like who did like they published I think the Dutch newspaper that published the cartoons of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, which till today I have not seen it. I don't want to see also. Like this kind of things, right? Like it just makes your heart ache. It causes pain in your heart to see this kind of lies slander against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I really like cannot stand these kind of things. But sometimes, like to talk to people and to help people with their aqidah, I have heard people say stuff about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that it just like it hurts you to hear people utter like certain words next to the name of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Like these words should not be uttered next to his pure and blessed name sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But yeah, people are like that, right? But for me, as far as I can, if I don't have to hear it or see it, I don't want to. What's the point in seeing that all these drawings? They are lies. They are lies about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So until today, I know it happened a few years ago, quite some time ago. I think I was in university when it happened. They made all this what do they call it, like what do they call it, caricature or something, like the cartoons. They draw cartoons in that way, but and they do it in a way that is humiliating and a way that is mocking, right, in mocking the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So there's no need for any believer to see this kind of filth and lies. But anyway, the one who published it in the Dutch newspaper, he eventually became Muslim, if I'm not wrong. Like he became Muslim, right? The guy. Right, so I mean, mashallah, you never know. Because sometimes these people they enter into matters, they have no idea what they're entering into, right? And they enter into it, ignorant. And then as they do more research, they realize that he is the Prophet. Subhanallah. How many of them Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with Islam, like when they actually came, as enemies, right, to Islam, and then they left as believers, and lovers of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And this has been going on since the Zaman of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. People will come to him and they hate him, right? And they will say, even the Sahaba, they will say that before I came to him, he was the most detested person, right, to me, right? I hated him the most, right, in all of creation. But when I left from his presence, he became the most beloved person to me. Right? Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And maybe that is proof that he is a prophet. Subhanallah. Right? That is proof in itself. Right? To flip in a moment from hating someone, hating everything about that person, right, to loving that individual, subhanallah. Um, Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. I think it was Sayyidina Abu Bakr who narrated, that during the farewell pilgrimage, Sayyidina Abu Bakr, he narrated he saw Sayyidina Abu Sufyan, This is how Allah changes people's states, by the light of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Do not underestimate. I do not underestimate the love and the light from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It can penetrate the darkest of hearts, the blackest of hearts, the hardest of hearts. The light of Rasulullah sallallahu, and He has done so. He has done so over and over again since his zaman, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, up to our zaman. There are people like that, no matter how deep in sin they are, no matter how far from the truth they are, they could even be disbelievers or atheists or drunkards or fornicators. They could be the worst of human beings. But when the light of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam shines in their heart, they make a flip. They change. They clean out their lives. They get so much better. The light of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, do not underestimate. That you see the effect, of this light and the power that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed in it. So anyway, the story of Sayyidina Abu Bakr, where he was observing, Sayyidina Abu Sufyan. He was observing Sayyidina Abu Sufyan, um during the fellow pilgrimage, and how, Sayyidina Abu Sufyan, like he rushed, to get the hair of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because during pilgrimage, Umrah and Hajj, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he shaves his head, for the nusuk, for the rites of Hajj or Umrah, his hair will fly. That's when he says, when he shaves his head, his hair will fly, and the Sahaba, they will rush for it. They will rush, to grab any hair, you know, of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, mashallah. And so Sayyidina Abu Sufyan, grabbing the hair of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and placing it on his eyes. Placing the hair of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam on his eyes. And Sayyidina Abu Bakr, he was so amazed, like, subhanallah, this very same man, this very same man, Sayyidina Abu Sufyan, this very same man, just a few years ago, just a few years ago, it was, I think, or maybe it was Safwan, not that was Safwan, it was Safwan. It is this very same man, just a few years ago at Hudaybiyah, I refused to write down. It was saying Safwan. He refused to write down the word Muhammad, Prophet of Allah. When he wrote the Treaty of Hudaybiyah, right? And be well versed in the seerah. Right? So learn the seerah and be well versed in the seerah. You should know the seerah, like how like anything in your life, that you're familiar with. Like you should know the seerah, like how you know your own life. Maybe you don't know your own life. It's like I have no comparison there. Right? But you should know the seerah like better than any text, that you ever come across. Right? Just know the seerah, like be fluent, I would say. Be fluent in the seerah. As if anyone were to mention any, like instance in the seerah, you know what it's about. You know what are the, what's the context, what happened, what are the things that happened behind it, and so on. Mashallah. So anyway, he said Abu Bakr was amazed. He was like, just a few years ago at Hudaybiyah. Literally, literally, it was like 2 or 3 years ago. Literally, right? At Hudaybiyah, and because the fellow pilgrimage happened in the year 10 or 11, right? Before the death of Rasulullah, I mean, after Hijrah, before the death of Rasulullah, and Hudaybiyah, right? It happened just a few years before that. Right? Hudaybiyah is where the disbelievers prevented the Muslims from doing their Umrah. That is Hudaybiyah, right? The disbelievers prevented the Muslims from entering Mecca to do their Umrah. Right? And Sayyidina, I forgot not Safwan, saying the wrong name, Sahaba. Sayyidina Suhail, I was Sayyidina Suhail who came, and he was writing the Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad. He was writing the treaty, of Hudaybiyah with the Muslims, right? The peace treaty or the agreement for 10 years, right? No fighting for 10 years, right? Because war paralyzes, right? So they wrote an agreement treaty for 10 years. Right? And as Rasulullah was dictating, what to be written, Sayyidina Ali was writing it, right? And he said, this is an agreement between Muhammad Rasulullah, and Suhail bin Amr. Right? And then he spoke up and he said that no, don't write Muhammad Rasulullah, right? Because if we had agreed to Muhammad Rasulullah, we won't be here right now stopping you from entering into Mecca. Here's the point, right? He does have a point, right? He said, write Muhammad bin Abdullah. Okay, write Muhammad bin Abdullah, remove Rasulullah. like Muhammad bin Abdullah. Because if we truly believe that you are Rasulullah, we won't be stopping here. We won't be stopping you right now from entering to Makkah, and doing your Umrah. Right? But we don't believe in it. And so don't write it down in our treaty. Like, subhanallah, so Sayyidina Rasul, and fair enough, so it's a point. Like, so Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Sayyidina Ali, remove it, remove the Rasulullah, I remove what you wrote, Rasulullah. And Sayyidina Ali, he just couldn't. And this is where, I think Shaykh Buti, he mentions this, with regards to the Sahaba, there were certain things they were instructed to do, but they couldn't obey. They actually couldn't obey. Right? Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam and Rasul never held them to account for it, right? Because this is from an area of adab. Okay, it's from an area of adab. Right? So like Rasulullah was saying, Ali, erase Rasulullah, the word Rasulullah, erase it. I know that I am Rasulullah. It's okay. You don't have to put it down. I mean, we know that I am Rasulullah. You don't have to put it down. Right? But Sayyidina Ali, he couldn't. Right? And another is also when Sayyidina Abu Bakr was the Imam and Rasulullah came out, which was in his sickness, his illness, right? And Rasulullah was going to stand behind Sayyidina Abu Bakr to be ma'mum to Sayyidina Abu Bakr Siddiq, right? When the people began to make to like hit their hands, to make noise to indicate Sayyidina Abu Bakr, the Prophet has come out, right? So Sayyidina Abu Bakr, he glanced behind, while praying, he glanced behind, he saw Rasulullah. Rasulullah gestured to him to stay where he was, and to continue being Imam. But Sayyidina Abu Bakr, he stepped back. So you can see it's very interesting. There are instances whereby the Sahaba, they cannot, follow the way of obedience because the way of adab prevailed. The way of adab prevailed. Right? So they couldn't follow the way of obedience. And it's a very very subtle point, how when the Sahaba, they would do it, when they would not do it. Like Sayyidina Ali, there was once Rasul said to him, "Oh Ali, go forward and do not turn around. Do not turn around, oh Ali, until you raise the name of Allah, that you raise the word of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, la ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah." That means in war, it was in war. So he said to Sayyidina Ali, go forward. I think it was during Khaybar. Right, during Khaybar, go forward and fight the people. And fight the people and do not turn around, until Allah grants us victory. And Hussein Ali, while he was walking, he had a question, like, and he stopped in his tracks and he called out to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam with his back towards Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, because the instruction was walk forward and do not turn around. Do not turn around, oh Ali. I go ahead, and fight till Allah grants us victory. In your hands, oh Ali. And so Sayyidina Ali, he stood there and he's very close to Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, and he said, Ya Rasulullah, I have a question. Like, he was back towards Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, because at that point in time, obedience was called for. Like, obedience prevailed over adab. MashaAllah. I mean, it's a very interesting analysis by I think it was Sheikh Puti had done it. Some of the, I think Habib Omar also mentioned it before in his Sirah. It's a very important analysis that the Sahaba, they had a fatana, they had an understanding, of when adab prevailed over instruction and when instruction prevailed over adab. Because sometimes the instruction, there is no adab in there, right? But the Prophet instructed, right? But it isn't from adab, right? For Sayyidina Abu Bakr to be the Imam of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, or for Sayyidina Ali to erase Rasulullah from the word, Muhammad Rasulullah, right? But there was an instruction, do it, right? And they didn't do it. And there were other times whereby, the instruction did go against the adab, like Sayyidina Ali talking to Rasulullah with his back towards Rasulullah. He didn't face Rasulullah, but his back is towards Rasulullah, because he was in a position of obedience, right? He was in the position of obedience to the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. So he understood in this situation, obedience prevailed over adab. And there's a very simple point there, lah, right? So when what prevails over what? And the answer is basically the circumstance. Right? So in war, right, in a situation of war, right, instruction prevails over adab in the instruction of war. Right? So when the Rasul told Sayyidina Ali, stand on my shoulder, O Ali. Right? So in a situation like, me stand on you, Ya Rasulullah, but there is a situation of war, get onto my shoulders. Right? It's a situation of war. Right? But in situations where it's not war, there is no like life at stake, that you're not fighting a battle. Right? But it's a normal, day-to-day situation, right? Where then adab prevails. Right? Adab prevails. And then the Sahaba understood this. And Rasulullah did not rebuke them or scold them, for not obeying. But he allowed for it because he understood that they were trying to weigh, like, do we obey or do we show adab? What do we do? Mashallah. So anyway, so I went to an entire long story. But Sayyidina Ali, please story, I'll come with my text. So Sayyidina Ali, Rasulullah said to him, erase, Muhammad Rasulullah from the treaty. Sayyidina Ali couldn't do it, right? Because adab now prevailed. Okay, there was no urgency, there's no war going on. Right? So adab prevailed. They were in a state of aman, of security because they were going for Umrah. Right? So there was no threat, of like anything dangerous happening, right? To their lives. Right? So Sayyidina Ali at that point in time, he couldn't erase the word Rasulullah, Muhammad Rasulullah. So Rasulullah, he understood, the state of Sayyidina Ali. He didn't scold Sayyidina Ali, didn't get hard on him, right? But Rasulullah said, Sayyidina Ali, show me where it is. Like, show me where the words are, Rasulullah, because he can't read, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There are narrations that eventually in his life he could read, but most narrations say that he couldn't read, sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Right? The Sahaba, right, would check, the writings and so on and so forth. Right? But so, there were narrations that say that Rasulullah, he himself would check, writings of the Quran, especially he would check it. Right. So anyway, he asked Sayyidina Ali to point him to where the words Rasulullah were. Right. Sayyidina Ali pointed, and he himself, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, with his blessed fingers, he rubbed out, right, the words Rasulullah. Right. So anyway, the story goes that so Sayyidina Abu Bakr said, Subhanallah, just a few years ago, like this man, right now, mashallah, he refused to write the word Rasulullah, on the treaty. And then now, a few years later, the same individual is grabbing the hair of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and rubbing it onto his eyes. Saying, Fidaka ya Rasulullah, Fidaka ya Rasulullah, saying, my life be sacrificed for you, my life be sacrificed for you. Mashallah, the same individual. And this is what the light of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam does to people. Like it makes them leave what they never thought they could ever leave, of vices. Subhanallah. So mashallah, we're on the next part of this verse. Muhammadun خصه الرحمن بالنعم. So Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, that Allah has given him exclusive blessings. خصه, and from the khususiyya of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, or from the khususiyya of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So here he says that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wasallam has many specialties that are not possessed by other people. Right? This is well known. Right? When you study Sirah, you study Shama'il, which I hope you all are doing, like in this Rabiul Awal, put some time, learn a bit about the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Um, Today at 6 a.m. here in Tari by 11 in Singapore, we'll be having our class with Samar Haider, on the life of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Then later on, 8:30 here Tari, which is what time Singapore? 8:30. 8:30 is 1:30 Singapore, right? 1:30 Singapore. Haba Aishun, mashallah, Haba Aishun Sirah class is really like, I tell you, you just like on a high in love when you're listening to Haba Aishun talk about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The class goes by so fast, mashallah. But really, I hope my translation gives some form of justice to the state of Haba Aishun that she speaks about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It does no justice, like, I know, like, my translation. It does no justice to her state and to her description and to her. You could just imagine her, smiling the entire 1.5 hours of lesson. Like, she's just smiling for 1.5 hours. She doesn't stop smiling, mashallah. Literally, I'm watching her and I'm translating her, and she's just like, the smile does not leave her face for 1.5 hours. It's just like that, how I should. So anyway, the Sirah class later on. So I hope you all attend that. So Rasulullah, so Mariam Haider, she mentioned about this before, about the specialties of Rasulullah. So in fact, some of these specialties were not possessed even by other prophets. عليهم السلام وعلى نبينا أفضل الصلاة والتسليم. Like, amongst the specialties of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is that he sallallahu alaihi wasallam was given help before going to war. And this help is from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It is divine help. It's called Ra'b, like Ra'b. Like the enemies of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, they are given, or Ra'b is cast into their hearts, right? What is Ra'b? Right? It is a fear that will grow in the hearts of the enemy from as far away as a month's journey. So you can see how this will cripple the enemies of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that it will cripple them. Because really, that you have won a war, if the enemy is afraid of you, right? You can't win a war afraid. You can't come to a war feeling afraid of the enemy and then win it. No. Winners are those who come to the war battle, and they have full confidence that they will win. It's really half the battles in the head. Already half the battle, not even half the battle. You see, like the 90% of the battle is in the head. It's just in the head. Someone's like very sure they will win, which is why, mashallah, of the Sunnah of Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam before wars, right? And this was narrated about the Battle of Badr, like he will go around on the battlefield and he will say to the Sahaba, you, so and so, you will kill so and so at this spot, so and so among the disbelievers at this spot. And then he will go to another spot and will say, you, so and so among the Sahaba, you will kill so and so amongst the disbelievers at this spot. And he went going around doing that. This is really, I mean, of course, he's Sadiqul Amri and he has knowledge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and he knows what will happen in the future. He knows that, right? But mashallah, it is also psychology, like to tell someone that you will win this, okay? You will win this, inshallah. Inshallah, you can do this, inshallah. And you will do it, inshallah. Like to give this full, like semangat, like this full drive in a person. You will definitely do this. There is no doubt you will do it, mashallah. And of course, the flip side is even, the flip side is also true. If you keep saying to someone, you can't do it, you can't do it, there's such a big army, you can't do it, you will lose, you all are weak, you all are this, you all are that. And the fact of the matter is that most of the time, the enemies of the Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, like they are at least 3, 4, 5 times in size as compared to the Muslims. There were times where they were 10 times in size as compared to the Muslims. Right? Subhanallah, and but Allah will give the enemies dreams where they will see the Muslim army being huge. When the Muslims were only like, a few hundred, a thousand maybe, they were very few, the Muslims. But Allah put a rap, like a rap, right? It's a fear. In their heart, they can't, their legs become like jelly. They come into the battle and they have no, zeal. There's no drive. There's no energy. There's no nothing inside of them. This is why they could be beaten so easily, right? They could be defeated so easily because half the battle won with the fear that is growing in their hearts. And that's from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's from Allah, and it's a khususiyah. And it's a specialty for Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Allah assists him by casting in the heart of his enemies fear. Right? Even it is narrated, he will say, it is narrated that someone like Abu Jahl, who goes around, he passes around being arrogant, and speaking against the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, right? That when he's alone with Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, talking to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam alone, Abu Jahl actually behaves like a child, in the sense that he goes into shyness and then he bows his head, and he's speaking to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam because he's affected by the haiba. He's affected by the great presence of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Someone like Abu Jahl, like who goes around, spewing all kinds of hate against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When he's alone with the when he comes to it and he's face to face alone with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, oh, he cowers. Like he cowers like a child being scolded, Wala hawla wa subhanallah. There is, and it's the proof is right there. The enemies would witness it. They will observe Abu Jahl as like a child cowering in front of his father, like in front of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Like it seems like that, and they are amazed. And then when they question him, Abu Jahl was like, "Do not question me on this. Do not, for he is the Prophet. He has his presence." But they refuse to believe in him. Okay, let me just stop here because I have class. Actually, ready for my class. But inshallah, we'll do our dua after Maulid now. Barakallahu fikum. Tomorrow, also we have for Maulid tomorrow. Check the list. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم والحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم صل وسلم على سيدنا محمد في الأولين، وصل وسلم على سيدنا محمد في الآخرين، وصل وسلم على سيدنا محمد في النبيين، وصل وسلم على سيدنا محمد في المرسلين، وصل وسلم على سيدنا محمد في الملأ الأعلى إلى يوم الدين. وصل وسلم على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ولقد أشهدنا لمن أصلافه وتحيي القلوب تهيج الأشجان. صلى الله عليه. والله قد أثنى عليه فما يستوي القول منا ويكون سنانا. صلى الله عليه. لكن حبا في السرائر قد دعا من مدح صفوة ربنا وحدانا. صلى الله عليه. وإذ امتزجنا بالمودة ها هنا نرفع أيدي فقرنا ورجانا. يا صلى الله عليه. للواحد حج علي إلينا متوسلين بما إليه دعانا. صلى الله عليه. مختاره وحبيبه وصفيه زين الوجود به لله الحبانا. صلى الله عليه. يا ربنا يا ربنا يا ربنا، بالمصطفى اقبلنا أجب دعوانا يا الله. أنت لنا يا ذخرنا في هذه الدنيا وفي أخرانا يا الله. أصلح لنا الأحوال واغفر ذنبنا ولا تؤاخذ ربي إن أخطانا يا الله. مسلك بنا في نهج طه المصطفى ثبت على